I can't help but feel like I was a little bit too mean to the first Mega Man game in my review of it. I don't think that any aspect of it is actually bad now, except the cover. That is an awful cover. Mega Man 2's cover, on the other hand, is better. I mean, it's still weird that Mega Man is using a gun instead of his arm cannon, but I mean, it's an improvement. The second you boot this game up, you'll immediately realize it's cut from a different cloth than the first one. The first game had a simple title screen, but this one has a full cinematic. That's incredible for an NES game. A cool thing about the music that I didn't know until recently is that it's actually from the end of the first game, or at least the start of it is. Because once the exposition is over, the camera starts going up the building all the way to the roof where you finally get the title screen. This is easily my favorite title screen of any game I've reviewed so far. It's so cool. The way the music transitions from the soothing end music of the first game to the awesome title screen music of this game is just chef's kiss. Also, Mega Man's hair blowing in the wind is kind of funny. A running theme of Mega Man 2 is that it makes Mega Man 1 look like complete garbage because it does everything that game did, but better. I mean, just look at the first game's select screen. The second game just has so much more style to it. There's actual detail in the background, and each character has their own face portrait. Oh, and there are 8 Robot Masters instead of 6 this time. The plot of this game is exactly the same as the first, which is a recurring theme throughout the Mega Man games. You play as Mega Man, you work for Dr. Light, you fight Dr. Wily, Dr. Wily has a bunch of Robot Masters, yada yada. Similarly, the structure of this game is exactly the same as the first. You clear the board of the Robot Masters, and then you go on to fight Dr. Wily and all of his extra minions. For this video, I'm going to do pretty much the same thing I did for Mega Man 1. That's to say, I'll be ranking all of the Robot Master stages from worst to best, and then talking about all of the Wily stages. I will say it was actually pretty hard for me to pick a least favorite. There are plenty of frustrating moments, but none of them are quite as bad as the Gutsman or Iceman platforming bits. With that being said, my least favorite stage is probably Quick Man's. Everything before the first checkpoint of this level is actually pretty fun. The entire idea of having a level where your only goal is to fall down before you get killed is a great one. The problem is, everything after the second checkpoint goes way overboard and feels unreasonably hard. Even if you know exactly what you're doing and run through it perfectly, you can still die just from being a few pixels off where you're supposed to fall down. It's not that bad, but it does make for a miserable time your first time through. Also, I really wish they could have moved the checkpoint past the fire things. They're not hard, but they're kind of annoying, and usually whenever I play this, I end up running against a wall for 10 seconds because I don't realize what I'm doing. Oh, and as an extra kick in the teeth, those jumping things from the first game are in this level. Woohoo. The boss is easy. He's just easy. If you use Flashman's weapon, you can stop time and take off half his health bar with 0 effort. And even if you don't have Flashman's weapon, some shots from the Mega Buster will take him down in like 0 time at all. You get the quick boomerang from this, which isn't great. In fact, it's pretty bad. The only reason you would ever use it is because some of the later bosses are weak to it. Otherwise, you would have 0 reason to ever touch this thing. My second least favorite stage is Metal Man's. The conveyor belts are really annoying and they turn this whole thing into a slog. It is a very generic and forgettable video game factory level. Now the boss Metal Man is a huge step up from the level as a whole. The floor is a conveyor belt, but that's really not a problem since it keeps a natural distance between you and the boss. To beat him, you have to find the right rhythm to dodge his metal saws. It's pretty fun and not frustrating, so I actually enjoy this fight a lot. You get the metal blade from killing him, which is the single most broken weapon in either of the 2 games I've played, and from what I've heard, the most broken weapon in the entire series. It lets you shoot in all 8 directions, so even if it was weaker than the Mega Buster, it would still be a great weapon. However, not only is it stronger, it also costs basically nothing. Not only that, but it's the primary weakness of 2 other Robot Masters and Metal Man himself, meaning it's by far the most useful weapon in the game. It's so good that it honestly just feels like cheating to use. At number 6 I have Heat Man's stage. Now, most people absolutely despise this level because of all the disappearing blocks. Especially the last bit of this level, which is an insanely long pit where you have to jump over disappearing blocks the entire way, and falling is dying and having to do it all over again. However, there's one lovely little feature of this game which I haven't mentioned yet, and those are the extra items that Dr. Light gives you after killing a certain number of Robot Masters. Because this is one of the harder levels, it's probably also one of the last ones, so you'll already have Item 2. It's a hoverboard that lets you go over huge gaps, and it effectively spits in the face of whoever designed this game. Heat Man's a pretty fun boss. He shoots fireballs at you that turn into pillars, and then he becomes a fireball himself. His weapon is just a stronger Mega Buster, and it's unfortunately almost completely useless. His weapon's only strong against Woodman, who's one of the easiest bosses to get to and defeat, meaning that you can only really get use out of this weapon when you fight Woodman again. Speaking of Woodman, he's my number 5 pick. His stage starts out as a pretty fun trek through the forest, and then turns into a fight with a bunch of metal dogs. I also really like the part with the sky platforming because it's the single best example of how good the Metal Blade is. Whenever a bird drops an egg, you can just shred through its babies like paper. Wow, this is a really dark game, isn't it? I have to take some points off for the ostriches at the end, though. The Metal Blade doesn't work on them, and they just take way too many shots from the Mega Buster. Woodman is deceptively strong. His spinning leaf attack does a huge amount of damage. After you kill him, you get the power of his spinning leaf attack, which is, I mean, it's okay. Number 4 is Flashman, who's probably the most forgettable Robot Master. I don't think that anyone actually remembers this stage for anything other than the Stash Man joke from Game Grumps. It doesn't have anything super frustrating, but it's not that interesting, so it's good, but not great. He has the ability to freeze you when you fight him, but if you use the Metal Blade, then he will be dead long before he ever has the chance to do that. His ability lets you freeze time, which is only really useful in Quickman's stage. Even then it's not useful really, since once it's activated, it stays on until it runs out. And you can't switch weapons while you have it activated, so it's pretty much useless. Number 3 is Bubble Man, because he has the most unique stage. After a platforming section next to a waterfall where you fight some frogs, you end up going underwater. I especially like the section with the Metroids and the insta-kill urchins. It's pretty stressful, but in that fun sort of way, you know? Also, piece of advice, be very careful at the platforming section after the water part. If you're an idiot and you get hit by a crab like I was, then you have to do the entire water part over again. I'm gonna take a guess that Bubble Man is an okay boss. I don't know, he's weak to the Metal Blade, so he died in like 5 seconds. He lets you shoot bubbles, an ability that's only useful against Heat Man and another boss that we'll get to. My second favorite stage is Crash Man's, and that's almost entirely because I love the music in this part. That's not to say the level is bad though, it's still really good. There are several points where you have to jump on these platforms set on a set track. The entire time you have to avoid enemies, which die in one hit from the Metal Blade, so that makes it a little easy, but it's still good. I also want to give a special shout out to this spot, which you will get knocked off here over and over again. Having an enemy that's guarded shoot at a platform to knock you off over and over again is a little annoying, but it doesn't kill you, so I don't mind it. And besides, it's nothing that our old friend Item 2 can't fix. Crashman's thing is shooting bombs, and for some reason he's weak to Airman's tornado weapon. I don't know how that's supposed to work out, but whatever. Speaking of Airman, he's my pick for number 1. I might just be a little bit biased again since I absolutely love this stage's music, but the idea of a platforming gauntlet in the clouds is a great one and this level does it well. It's very similar to Iceman's stage, except not terrible. Airman himself is also a pretty good boss. His tornadoes blocking your attacks is actually a pretty good idea that makes the fight really challenging. For some reason, he's weak to leaves, which makes even less sense than tornadoes being strong against bombs. Like, shouldn't the tornadoes just blow the leaves away? Am I crazy? With the ranking over, it's time to move on to the final bosses, and I'll have you know that I actually did it this time. Dr. Wily's first stage starts out with some amazing music, and the stage itself is pretty good too. These stages actually require you to use the extra items you get from Dr. Light, which, considering that you've already gotten them all since you would have had to have beaten all the robot masters, that makes a lot of sense and fits perfectly. I already mentioned item 2, but item 3 is a platform which bounces until it hits a wall and then it starts going up. I will say it's the most situational of the 3 mobility items since you need a wall to use it effectively. Item 1, on the other hand, can be used anywhere. See this huge gap where it looks like you're supposed to use item 2 to drift sideways? No, you're supposed to use item 1. The items are all nice, but you have to recharge them if you die and have to repeat a section, which can get really annoying. The first boss in the standard Wily gauntlet of these games is a giant robot dragon. Before you fight it, you actually have to platform run away from it to get to the arena, which can be really annoying. Oh, and remember this huge gap I told you about? Well, you have to recharge your items every single time you want to cross it again. This boss also has a really bad screen flickering problem, which gets really annoying. He's weak to the boomerang for some reason, and once you start hitting him with it, he goes down like nothing in a few seconds. I must say, I thought a fight against a robot dragon would be a lot cooler than this. Wily Stage 2 is, fine, I guess. I don't know, I don't remember it that well. The only thing worth noting is that you use item 2 to jump the gap again. There are 2 ladders to jump up, and if you don't get the second one, then the game will make fun of you for being such a coward who jumped on a ladder too early. The game pretty much just says, yeah, if you weren't such a baby, you could have 2 extra E-tanks and 2 extra lives right now. For the boss fight of this level, the walls of the arena turn into the boss. It's an okay fight, although it can be kind of annoying. The third stage is, an interesting one. There's another underwater part with even more insta-kill urchins, and it's okay. The only really interesting part of the level is the straight drop down with insta-kill urchins lining the walls. The third Wily boss is Gutsman, except he's put on a few pounds and turned himself into a tank. I remember him being really hard my first playthrough since I didn't know you could jump on top of him. But if you jump on his front wheel and shoot him with the boomerang over and over again, the fight will end in a few seconds. Oh boy, the 4th stage. I really hate this 4th stage. Ugh. Okay, so first off, it starts out with a bunch of platforms that you can fall through. They don't look any different from regular platforms at all, so it's just trial and error figuring out which ones you can walk on. There's even a part with invisible platforms over spikes, and I just said absolutely not and used item 2 again. Item 2 has literally been carrying me throughout this entire playthrough. Then there are a bunch of sections that are like Crashman's stage, except way more boring. And then we get to the 4th boss, which is just a bunch of lights on the wall. You can only beat these with crash bombs, and you only get 7 shots with the crash bomb. That means that you're entering this fight completely unable to break every wall and shoot every light. You simply do not have enough shots. That means you can only shoot the walls that you absolutely have to destroy. You actually have to use item 1 to maneuver around the walls. I actually really like this idea, it's just, in execution, it's really hard. Oh, and if you die in this fight, you have to fill your inventory with crash bomb energy again, making this boss extremely grindy and annoying. Overall, cool idea, but bad execution. The 5th stage is made up of 9 boss fights, with 8 of those being the robot masters you beat already. Because you already have and know all of their weaknesses, you have pretty much no excuse to lose to them. I really like this, it's a fun trip down memory lane, and this time you actually get to decide what order you fight them in. The only other thing worth noting is that Metal Man gets one-shot by his own weapon. That's just embarrassing, man. After beating all 8, a 9th door appears, which takes you to the 5th boss fight. In this fight, you go up against Dr. Wily in a flying thing. I don't know what this is. This boss is actually weak to Metal Blade again. Now, in theory, that's a good idea, since you would have used Metal Blade a ton in the earlier boss fights, right? Well, no, because Metal Blade is just way too inexpensive. This fight is pretty hard until you realize if you stand still and hit the button as fast as you can Metal Blade him to death in about 2 seconds. The last level of the game is eerily quiet. Your only obstacle in the stage proper is what I guess is lava dripping from the ceiling of the cave. Once you get through the cave, the final boss is wily, but he turns into an alien, and for some reason this alien is weak to bubbles. In fact, no other weapons except the bubbles even work on him. The bubbles have a very limited range, so this makes it a pretty fun fight since you have to get in close, which is pretty risky. Anyway, after you beat the alien, you find out that Wily wasn't an alien, he was just using holograms to make it look like he was one. And with that, the game's over and you win, congratulations. Mega Man 2 is very similar to Mega Man 1, except it made everything better. It took the controls from Mega Man 1 and kept that exactly the same, but then improved upon literally everything else. Better bosses, better levels, better art design, even better music, which is saying something because Mega Man 1 had really good music already. This is exactly what a sequel should be, and what a video game should be in general. And for that, I'm putting it at the very top of my list right now. Anyway, 9 out of 10, thank you for watching, have a good day, like and subscribe, bye!